Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Happenings in the Dearborn Public Schools. I'm David Mustonen, Director of Communications for the Dearborn Public Schools. Here we are, exciting stuff as we start off, yes, believe it or not, year 3 of our show, our little show right here, Happenings. And joining me, as always, is our Superintendent, Dr. Glenn Maleyko. Glenn, welcome. Year 3, what do you think?
Year 3, well, I wouldn't say little, David. The ratings came in and they're skyrocketing with this topic. So
big in Canada,
30,
big in Japan now, I heard too.
I heard Japan, and over 30 episodes. I do want to say I want to thank Kurt Doley, Eric Shigfree, and the whole crew over here, the student crew at Dearborn High for their great support. And, we're going to go for the record number. We're going to keep this going as long as we get our contract renewed.
Yeah, well,
and, we're good to go. So very exciting.
Well, and today we've got 2 people joining us that will help us make sure that we continue those good ratings and those big ratings.
Yes.
We brought them on not only for their good looks and charm, but also for their star power and knowledge as well about today's topics. So joining us is Director of Student Services, Mr. Abe Mashhour. Abe, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate being here.
And Executive Director of Business Services and Operations is Mr. Tom Wall. Tom, thanks for being here as well.
Glad to be here again.
Great, great.
So we have an important topic right now, which is the population in the school district. And, a few years ago we had a bond that was passed at the elementary and middle school for the most part that, there's some expansions in some of the other high schools as well, but not enough to really accommodate the capacity at the high school. So although we're in good shape at the elementary and middle school, and again, we want to thank the Board of Education, the taxpayers in Dearborn for really supporting that bond because we would have, I think, a lot greater issues had we not passed that. But we're now at an issue that, you've been associated with, Mr. Mashhour, and, it's been one that we have to really be forward-thinking because the high schools, a couple of them are overcrowded, particularly the one we're at right now, Dearborn High.
Right.
So, how did this start, and how do we start looking at the capacity issues? And then eventually, I know we brought, recommendations to the board for discussion, and I do want to say that nothing's been decided yet. We're still in discussions, and we've had a lot going on. So, what are your thoughts on the high school capacity issues?
I mean, as you said, our high school enrollment continues to climb. It climbs every year. This year we had more students than last year. Fortunately, because of a lot of different things that are going on in our school district, we're getting a lot of new students. We get a high influx of new 9th graders every year that were not with us maybe kindergarten through 8th grade. So the numbers continue to climb, and as you said, we have to figure out where to put all these students.
Mm-hmm. And so, where are the two main? I mean, I know we have some capacity at one of the schools, but then 2 that have greater issue. What are the specific issues that you're seeing at those schools?
Well, Fortson and Dearborn High, as you stated earlier, both Fortson and Dearborn High, the numbers are greater than what the amount of classrooms that we have to hold students. Now, fortunately, we have several programs like dual enrollment, the Collegiate Academy, et cetera, that take some of those bodies out of the school for part of the day, which and obviously is great for kids because they get to experience different things and so on, and they get to try different avenues as far as their high school education. So at Fortson and Dearborn High, because the enrollment is so high, it kind of puts us in a quandary in a sense as to what we're going to do, because Etzel Ford, our enrollment is not as high, so we're not at capacity at Etzel Ford. We're actually more than 300 students below capacity. So we have to kind of look and see what is it that we can do so that we can basically balance out our school populations.
And go ahead.
I'm sorry, just to give us put it into some kind of context here. Our district's growing. Overall, the district is growing. So this year, over 21,000 students. We've probably gained in the past 10 years close to 4,000 students, which is huge. I mean, there are districts in this state that don't have 4,000 students, and we've grown by that much. At the high school level, what are those numbers at each of those high schools? What are we talking about, actually?
At Fortson, we're at 2,800 students, a little less than 2,800, and it looks to climb even more next year and the following year when we reach a peak as far as what our projections are showing and what the projections from Plant Moran Crest are showed as well. Dearborn High, we're over 2,100, and at Etzel Ford, we're just shy of 1,600. But Etzel Ford is the one that can house more students. Etzel Ford, we can have over 1,800 students there. So that's why we get into the boundary discussion as to how we can shift some of our students around so that our high schools are more well-balanced.
Well, and I wanted to clarify too, I know that even though we're over capacity, but it's not a safety issue currently because we obviously have our fire inspectors and whatnot, but it does impact curriculum. For example, Dearborn High, I know we've met with the principal and we have a lot of sharing of classes, isn't that correct?
Absolutely. We have, 14, we had 14 teachers on carts last year. This year, I don't know what the exact number is yet, but I'm sure it's more than that due to the fact that we have more students here at Dearborn High. So, but like I said earlier too, sometimes the students are leaving, so we don't have all the students here at the same time. However, it's not the most conducive environment for our students to be a part of. And obviously that's the task that's assigned to us, is to make sure that we deliver the best quality education that we can.
That came up in one of the discussions. Although you could expand the building, the infrastructure of the building is not necessarily built for that. So hallways.
Right,
and I've been
exactly.
here for passing at Dearborn High and at Fortson, and the students do a great job. They really do. But it is tight as they're moving from location to location. And so then you got to look at cafeteria and other issues.
Right. So like you said, I mean, if you add classrooms, you're still going to have the issue of, okay, well, you still have the times when students are passing from one class to another. You still have the cafeteria situation, and then it just becomes one addition after the other. And, sooner or later we have to look at those types of things. And the other thing is, Etzel Ford, again, having 1,500 to 1,600 students is not a bad population, but at the same time, we'd like to see that number increase so that they can have more vital programs over there.
So, Mr. Wall, you're here, I mean, the financial side. So obviously there's costs when we're looking at, since we do have some capacity, there's ability to lower costs by some boundary changes. But there's also a need for some expansion. And I know you also, being in the community, and you recall some of the boundary changes over a decade ago. I think we were talking about that when your children went.
Yes.
So, what are your thoughts and what is your role in this situation as we're looking at capacity at the high school?
As you highlighted, earlier, 2 of our 3 high schools are pretty much landlocked. There's not a lot of space around the school itself. And because then you start impacting the infrastructure of water, electricity, and it gets very expensive when you try to grow those programs to make a larger capacity. So the board has already looked at a 4-classroom, 7-classroom, 14-classroom addition at Dearborn. But again, that's not what the impact of the layout of the school is meant for, and it becomes a supervision issue. So we're trying to look at more options. And anytime you do construction, that is also a longer-term solvent. It will take 1 to 2 years to do a simple project, and we've actually talked about adding new buildings like a new high school, 9th grade academy. Those are 3 to 5 year options, and that's a long time away, and that's not going to affect us now.
Just the history of this too. Thank you, Tom. The history too that the first time we actually brought this forward to the board, I mean, we had reports going to them, but it was the May 1st study session. Right. And I remember that weekend I happened to be at the Dearborn High booster golf outing right after that, and there was a lot of rumors out there that we had decided and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, and I'm going to ask you to kind of go into the history of what we've done, is that was the first time we started the discussion. These were just ideas presented, and the fact is that we have to do it by law in an open meeting. So the press is there and they reported. Now, a lot of times that information wasn't accurate, and so that's why, with our social media, the best source would be to get onto our blogs and the district site if you really want all this true, explanation of what's going on. Although I would also say that we also have some great reporters in the area that do, a great job, but it is important that people understand that this is a process. I would also say that, and then I'm going to get you guys to go into kind of the history of what we're doing now and over the summer, that it's responsible. It may not be comfortable conversations, but as administrators for the district, for me as superintendent and the Board of Education, it's the responsible thing to do, and that's why we're here, and that's why we have a job to make those tough decisions. So it may not be comfortable for a lot of people, but it's an issue that we can't ignore, because if we do, we're going to be, we could be in a lot greater need moving forward. So, Abe, could you talk about what happened, May over the summer and how this has evolved? Because I know we've presented a lot of data to the board.
Well, first thing we did is we looked at how many total students that we were projecting, in the upcoming years. And when we do that, we look and say, okay, well, what is our capacity at each building? When you see that your numbers are greater than your capacity, well, you know that there's going to be an issue. So like you said, we're trying to be responsible, and it's not easy. There's no question about it. It's not easy. There is no perfect solution. This is going to cause some changes for people. Some people will embrace the changes and will love the new situation for whatever reason, and some people are not going to like it. Maybe because it's change, or perhaps because it, creates some other kind of situation for the family. But at the same time, again, we have to do what's responsible. And for us, we can't just say, well, this is going to be a problem the next, 5 to 10 years coming forward, and just sit here and not do anything about it. We have to at least try and say, okay, well, what is the best possible scenario that we can develop so that it kind of keeps students, again, gives them the best educational experience.
And so some of the things, like as we're moving on that, we started in May, we moved slow, we've gotten
We actually started back in December when Abe
Sure.
and I co-chaired
That's
a
right.
committee
That's correct.
of community members to kind of look at the capacity issues, which kind of evolved with the board discussion then in May.
Okay. So then in May, we continued, and every board meeting, we've actually had this on the discussion. We have it open for public comment. We collected data over the summer. We had the studies from Plant Moran,
Middle
Cities,
and
Stanford, 3 of the 4 that are recognized by the state, my understanding, for official bonding. We then also brought in, Tom, the architectural studies to look at
Correct.
different options. And I got to say, too, that board meeting, I felt really good. I don't know what you think. The board we had a real positive meeting on the 29th of August where the board gave us some direction. We had thrown on a couple options that the board took off. Tom, I don't know if you want to mention, we had some of the...
Right, because there's a lot of different ways to handle this, and we needed some kind of narrowing the focus
Yeah.
because there's a lot of detail involved.
Yeah.
So before we go to the public, we got to have kind of a framework of the ideas that we want to discuss with the public. And we have set out a calendar of events that starting, I believe, in late October, early November, we'll start going out to all the buildings and actually start bringing those discussions from the public to us too.
So for the boundaries, there'll be different options I know that, Abe, you've worked on, that you've presented, and we're going to present some more at the next meeting. And then the other thing was, we did have on the table the 9th grade academy and the high school, but those are costly.
Very
So it's a
costly.
balance of maybe disruption with boundaries versus cost, but even if you were
But it's
looking
not
at...
just cost.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt
Yeah,
you.
no, it's
not-
okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not just cost.
You're always welcome to, Abe. You know that. You do that at the cabinet meetings, come on.
Well, that's a little different. But it's not just the cost of it, but if you open a high school, you have to maintain a specific number of students year in and year out. And there's so many different like little nuances and so on to opening up a high school or even a 9th grade academy. Then when you open up a 9th grade academy, you got to think about the extracurricular activities that the students may be participating in. So there's a lot of different variables when you look at those things. So it's not just an issue of money. And then philosophically speaking too, the 9th grade academy or a new high school, some people may be in favor of it and think it's the greatest thing ever, but there's also research that shows that, those don't always work. So that's the thing. There is no perfect solution. And it's just something that we're going to have to work through.
And just to recap where we've been, so sounds like this whole thing started, we started looking into this, way back last year. Committee put together with citizens to kind of, again, examine where we are. Information brought forward to the board in May. Over the summer, collection of more information. We had a study session to kind of develop some framework of options. Again, nothing decided, nothing etched in stone, nothing voted on yet. And right now, we're at that point where very soon we'll be going out to the public to present them with some of the ideas that the board is considering. And those ideas include some changing of some high school boundaries, some different variations of that.
Right.
Also, the additions at some schools, at Dearborn High, possibly at Etzel Ford as well, to accommodate the numbers. Again, if you are moving kids around and you're bringing more kids over to a certain school, you may need to increase the capacity at that school as well.
And like gym space, cafeteria space potentially
Right.
also.
So those are the things that are on the table, and that's kind of where we are at. Now, this program, we're taping this program, late in September, so it'll air early in October, but it also, people will be able to watch it on the web at any time. But just to give people a time frame of where we are with right now, today, when we're doing this, because there is still a lot more to come. in the weeks ahead.
Absolutely.
And again, community input, the board was very clear that community input be a big part of this before they're ready to make any decisions.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
gentlemen,
Good
thank you
recap.
for joining
Thank
us. Good information.
Yeah.
All right.
You didn't ask me the wings question yet.
Oh, well, we're still in preseason.
Maybe no MSU for these gentlemen here.
MSU.
Well, oh,
had to
didn't
go
they have
there,
didn't
Tim.
they have
You
a
had
great
to go
game
there.
over the weekend?
You had to go there, didn't you?
Someone in the Fighting Irish. I don't
Oh,
know.
that's right. You had to go there. Just
Well, you get me
rub
next
it
time on
in.
the wings. Trust me, you're going to probably have a lot to get me during this year.
Well, they're still in preseason, so once they
Yeah.
start the
All
regular
right,
season,
got it.
we'll get your
Okay.
wings prediction for the year.
All right.
All right. All right. Well, that does it. There's another edition of Happenings. Great information and a lot more to come on this topic for sure in the days and weeks ahead. And there's always lots more to come here in Dearborn because we've got such a big district and such a great district with so many success stories going on and so much great news and information about everything going on right here in the Dearborn Public Schools.